This meeting is called to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tara, roll call, please.
Councilmember Kelly Campbell.
Here.
Councilmember Amber Fletcher. Councilmember Bink Garbett.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Mays. Councilmember Brooklyn Barnhart. Here. Councilmember Andy Bakke.
Here.
We are missing two council members, Councilmember Fletcher and Councilmember Mays. I do know that Councilmember Mays did message me just a short time ago, and he's just running a few minutes late. He said he will be here shortly. I have not heard from Councilmember Fletcher. If there's any
Heard from her. She is on her way. She thought it was at 7.
Okay. All right. If there's any action anyone wants to take, please do so. If not, all right, moving on. All right, public comment. We have one person in our audience tonight, and I believe he is waiting for something later on the agenda. So I think we're good there. Moving along to general business, guys. If you looked at your meeting, so this is a work session. Multiple things that we need to really work through tonight. I will say let's kind of move around since we're short 2 members at the moment so that we can get full input. Let's kind of jump around to some of the things that we can probably get out pretty easily. So looking at the agenda, let's start off with the firework donation for the Grant Association and also Courthouse on the Square. So they are looking for us to donate money. Bink, I think you had some conversations in regards to the amount. I believe.
I think the amount that Mr. Purdy had recommended was correct. I think he asked for $6,000. Does anyone recall that?
Yeah,
It should be in the minutes.
He did.
Yeah, it was $6,000. And as far as I know, I think that's right. So.
I recall 6,000.
Yeah.
So they're looking for, so the event is on July 4th. It's of this year. If you guys remember, Carol Myers came to a council meeting 3, 4, 5 months ago and was looking to put together some fireworks for the actual 4th of July. Originally then they were looking at doing them on the courthouse. They have since navigated from that and are now looking at doing the fireworks at the fairgrounds, which I think is probably a good idea based on the buildings and structures on the courthouse square. So they've teamed up with the Grant Association. So the Courthouse Square Association and the Grant Association have now teamed up. They are looking for some money for us to kick in to help the show take off and be a bang that they want it to be. I will tell you, historically, we have given them money. Historically, we've given, when the Grant Association did their celebration 2 years ago, the big celebration on the square, and they did fireworks on the square actually that time, we did actually give them money. I want to believe it was between 10 and 15,000 at that time. They were doing a very strong presentation that night. So I say all of that just to say that there is history there that we have donated. Discussion. Welcome, Councilmember Mays.
Long drive.
Make a motion just to approve it.
Anything goes here.
I'll make a motion to approve $6,000 for the Grant Association firework display.
I'd make a comment on that before we go ahead.
Motion on the floor. We'll have
Okay,
discussion in a second.
Okay.
Councilmember Garbett has properly made the motion to donate the $6,000. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Bakke has also seconded that motion. Discussion. Mike.
And that's for is that a grant celebration or what is that? That's 4th of July?
So remember, Carol came to the meeting. She was individually, or not individually, but their Courthouse on the Square was going to do it. And then for whatever reason, and they were going to do it on the square. Then they teamed up with the Grant. And then I think more so from a safety concern, they decided to move it to the fairgrounds. So now they're at the fairgrounds and the two of them are doing it together.
Okay, the only reason why I'm going into this is because I feel like in the past, we gave money always to the grant celebration, and we gave $10,000 is what we gave in the past. And when we did that, this year we had changed that. When Mr. Ludwig came in, he got money from us for something else, the cabin up here, and that was for $5,000.
Mhm.
I mean, I think if 4th of July party is great, but we've got a lot of debt too and a lot of things to cover is all I just want to mention. I'm not saying I totally oppose it. I'm just saying that that's 11,000 this year now for two things instead of 10,000 that we'd paid in the past. I know that we've curved back on some costs too, like I don't think we've done the cats this year, so maybe it won't hurt, but I just know there's a lot of things coming up and that we've got to spend money on.
The one thing we hear a lot about, and I'm not, again, I don't have a vote, but I will share my opinion, is we hear a lot about, there's not enough to do in the village. We don't have enough things for people to come, see, do, participate in. I look at it as another opportunity for us to bring something for the community to do, and it's at minimal cost. We're not footing the full bill of the fireworks. So that's the way I look at it.
I have a question kind of for Joe. Are we allowed to vote in a work session?
We try not to, but
Okay.
that we want to try not to, but we have the ability to vote. Tonight's one of those off nights that we're going to have to vote.
Was that cabin, does anybody remember how much?
5,000 is what we put up for it. It'd be nice if we could scale that back to like 3,000. I'd feel a lot more comfortable with that. I've bought fireworks in the past, and I'm not saying that. I feel like 6,000 we'd be paying for the fireworks show, to be honest with you. But if council feels like they want to move with that, I would probably go with it, but I'd like to see them consider.
Well, I will just throw in a little more information. So I know that the courthouse square was going in half with the grant association. And so the courthouse square has already put up their $6,000. And the person who they are doing fireworks with has informed them that unfortunately, just like everything else with inflation, it has gone up like triple. So as far as the money, I know $3,000 won't cover what they were planning on doing. And going back to what Kelly asked, the reason we need to vote on it tonight is because they need to have it ASAP. So, again, if we did 10,000 in the past, even though we did give 5,000 to the cabin project, we're only going to be 1,000 above what we've done in the past. So, which it is, we want to be responsible, but it is something that I think is going to be a good event for everyone.
And possibly what we can do in the future as we get a more permanent administrator and our fiscal officer is getting up to speed, potentially we can start talking about maybe setting budgets or parameters for events within the community and things that we want to participate in or pledge our money to. So that could be a possibility too, so that we're not debating everything, but we at least know what our budget is and where we are, and that might be a good idea. All right. Welcome, Councilmember Fletcher. We're talking about the donation for the fireworks for July 4th. Further discussion? Anybody want to participate, or should we go to a vote? We do have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? That was for 6,000. Okay. Tara, we'll go to vote. Roll call.
Councilmember Campbell,
Yes.
Councilmember Fletcher,
Yes.
Councilmember Garbett,
Yes.
Councilmember Mays,
Yeah.
Councilmember Barnhart,
Yes.
Councilmember Baki.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, thank you. Bink, will you take the responsibility of making sure they know that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, thank you. All right, so that knocks out one. I can go through another one, I think, fairly quickly. Item H is Tree Commission. I was approached roughly a month ago by Tanya Horn. She was at the meeting last month, actually, or 2 weeks ago. She was originally part of the founding group for the tree commission for the village. If you notice when you come into the community, there's signs kind of at the entry markers, like right at the edge of the entry of the community that say that we're part of a tree commission, 4 years running, you know, things of that nature. Kelly, you probably recall because it started when you were on council as well. We since let that kind of fall to the wayside and subside away. Basically the committee, there's a lot of change in the committee and there's a couple that moved and whatnot. And so it kind of didn't get completed for the following year. There's certain parameters that you have to meet. So Tanya wanted to know if we had interest in doing this again and starting back up the tree commission. I can't fully explain the full depth of the tree commission. Kelly, I know there's a lot of parameters that they hold us to. Things that we can and can't do as far as being a part of that.
Speak to some of the negative things. If
Sure.
anybody's wanting to hear those. They tend to really like trees until the tree is no longer alive. And then it becomes a process. You can't just walk out and make your own decision of how to cut it down, how to get rid of it. It brings a lot of unnecessary opinions when it's just a tree that's either, prime example, some months back, pulling out of West Fork Road or Airport Road onto West Fork, there was a dead tree. We were able to go cut the tree down because it was a big problem. Somebody was really going to get hurt. If we would have had a tree commission like we used to, it would have taken months, and it was just, I'm not interested, but.
Now, with that being said, would that interfere with whatever development that we want to have in the park? I mean, would we have to go through them in order to
Yeah.
take out trees then?
Sure.
Okay, so, okay. Good to know.
Yes. Anybody that's been around the park knows it's full of trees.
Yes.
It's just a hazard. So you have to go out, flag them, mark them, have a meeting, discuss proper ways of getting rid of them, pruning them, taking care of them. So.
So again, I will sum it up. I mean, there are pros to it. There are cons to it, of course. The pros, I mean, we get to tote that we're a tree commission. If you go to a lot of local cities around, or cities, communities around the city, you will see on their signs. It's just another, point that can bring about their community and things of that nature. And obviously there's environmental positives to it too as well. They're protecting the environment, the trees. There's good positives to it too as well. But I just wanted to put it out to you guys that there's some interest. And if it's something you want to do, we can go back to that. Or if it's not something that we're wanting to do, I can communicate that to Tanya as well. Any strong interest one way or the other? Should we vote?
I am not interested in it, but if you wanted to vote, we can, however you want
Do we need
to,
this? We don't need
how you
to
want
vote.
to handle it.
Have her come in and do a presentation. You don't have to do it.
I'm seeing.
It's going to be really more restrictive based on what you're saying, Kelly. I mean, I think that's a concern. If there's a tree that needs to come down, we don't need to stall for 2 or 3 months getting it down. So
Now, I will say if Tanya's listening and she has some opinions of, we're definitely, if there's trees that we could plant and it would look better, do better, we're all ears, but
I think our main concern was that some of the trees were, after the storm, some of the trees had fallen down. It was her husband did that. And I think that was their main concern, and I understand that, but maybe we could go about it in a different manner rather than, adding more restrictions.
Is there a strong consensus from anyone at this table that we should do it?
Are there any benefits to it? I haven't heard any benefits yet.
You got a sign in your town that says you're a tree city, right?
You're helping the environment, remember that.
Safer in the park for, when they're keeping an eye out for the trees that may come down. And I get that, but maybe we could find another way to make sure we keep an eye on those things, because I feel like when we go to develop the park, we're probably going to take some of those out anyway,
I think there's been some discussion with different people around the idea of maybe even and I know this has been mentioned in conversations I've had. Now, I don't know about everybody's, but I'd love to see us get with a logging company and do some removal, out there, catch some of these trees. These trees are great to have, but when they're going the other direction, you're losing to where you could gain financially for adding things to the park. So I think there's benefit in clearing some of that, and it gets it cleared, it's out of our way, it's paid for through selling the timber.
And I think that's something as we continue these work sessions and we discuss, and obviously with capturing a strong administrator and having somebody here that's full-time as the administrator, those are things that we'll start to kind of develop and work on. I mean, obviously the park needs a plan. Obviously, sooner than later, we need to have an expert go in there and not just take down one tree that we see that's bad. We need somebody in there that's going to kind of review all the trees and assess what needs to come down now, which we did do roughly 2 years ago. But again, there's still trees out there. So
Well, there was recently a tree that split. Was that a pin oak? Was that, okay, well, not that there's a lot of money, but there is value to that. And the sooner we get on things like that tree might have had 1,200 board foot in it. Right. Well, I know it's split now, but if it would have been took care of prior to it going to that point,
salvaged it for at least a
and
good
made
wood.
some
Yeah,
money back for the general fund. So
point well taken.
That's something that we can roll into the park 5-year plan, like when we talk about that. So.
I mean, keep in mind, and trying not to get too far off topic, but keep in mind, there is a strong immediate need in the park right now for somebody from a safety concern. But then, yes, I mean, the longer term plan, definitely part of the park plan. All right, back to my original question. Any strong guesses here that we need to move forward with this? If not, I'm going to move along. Okay, moving right along, guys. Another item I, and again, I apologize for skipping around. I just want to get some of these things off of the agenda and kind of out of the way a little early here. The grant planning meetings, as you guys heard, last meeting, I believe it was, maybe the meeting before, I apologize. We had Michael Salvador from American Structure Point in here showing us the grant project. One of the things that he's highly encouraging us to do, and obviously we should do it, is have these meetings, the public input meetings. You guys remember him talking about that? So I want later. So I'm looking to start things. And so I was thinking nights, we would do a public input meeting if you can be here from 6 to 7:30, where I'll lead the conversation and help with anybody, the public that comes in. But we're capturing their input on kind of the design, the streetscape, the maybe even type of product that they would like to see, or any changes, modifications. But it's also a time for you guys to provide some input too as well. I really would like to hold true to that 90-minute window. So homework for you guys is to really get familiar with the project itself. If we need to send out, I don't even recall if we sent out the plan or the specs.
I haven't got a copy of that plan. I've seen a copy at the last meeting, but there was would love to have one.
Before you leave tonight.
Should we put it on the website?
Is it on the website?
I don't think it's up on the website yet.
Tara can put it on the website tomorrow.
I want a piece of paper if I can.
Piece of paper. Can you get him a piece of paper? Anybody else want paper? Seriously.
Not that I'm against trees.
Actually, how about he wants paper? Everybody else okay with email? Email? Okay. Tara will make sure that goes out. And then again, just kind of get familiar with it. What is there is not, again, remember they said that's just, I mean, a lot of it has to be there, but that was what they needed to get done to at least get the grant application processed. And now that we have it, we can make some modifications to it. So keep in
What
mind.
dates are we gonna do
So
that?
Tuesday,
Starting
next,
Tuesday, the
18th? That's next Tuesday.
yes, next Tuesday, 18th, and then the 25th, and then the 2nd. So 3 Tuesdays in a row, 6 to 7:30 here in the council chambers.
Will all of council be invited?
All of council is
So
invited.
then we will need to advertise those as a special meeting.
You said no. You said we advertise it as a public.
That's okay. No, go ahead.
You said
What
a
is it?
public input.
Yeah, that's why I want to ask, what's it going to be? What's the format going to be?
There's no voting.
Right. but
So
is
it's
it-
just
Is there going
note
to be
taking,
discussion?
note taking. Brooklyn might say she dislikes the color of the blocks. Mike might say he wants a stage. Kelly might, and then public's going to say what they need to say. And I'm going to capture notes.
So we are going to have council I think if they're giving input versus just listening, that's why I wanted to ask. It's fine. All we have to do is advertise. That's it.
Okay.
So it's 24 hours. We're fine.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah,
For those listening at home,
Right.
again, we're starting our public input sessions starting on
18.
the 18th of June, and they will run for 3 weeks every Tuesday night from 6 to 7:30. This is an opportunity for those at home that would like to come in and be able to add input to the grant project that we are quickly beginning to drip on and get into place. So if you would like to attend those meetings, you are welcome. If you have any questions, feel free to call the village offices. Will that be on YouTube? Yes, we will stream those. Okay. Yes, good question. All right.
Tara, I'll work with you on how the format for the minutes. It just needs to say public. That's why I asked the questions, so.
Okay, so let's, so we've knocked a few items out of the way. Let's start with, go back to the top and start with the A item, if you will. So let me look at this just a second. So in your packet, you have a copy of a resolution, and should I, before I talk about it, have, all right. So Councilmember Campbell, if you could read this by title for us.
Resolution approving the appointment of a village administrator and authorizing the mayor to enter into an employment agreement for the hiring of a village administrator.
So in the audience, I think most of you that were a few minutes before the meeting, you were able to meet Travis Dotson. I've had conversations with many of you regarding Travis, so we were very fortunate to hear from Travis that he was interested in the administrator position here in Georgetown. And he has been in Bethel 16 years almost, is that right? Yeah, so strong experience. He's from this community. And him and I have had many conversations to date thus far, and I'm very excited to bring him in front of council and hopefully get your blessing to move forward with him. He has quite a few ideas and efficiencies and just things, the questions that he was asking me during our conversations really got my brain going in the direction that I think we want to go as a group. He's really all about growth, all about efficiencies. He's going to be a great support to Tara and Greg in the office. He's well known in his community. He's involved in his community. He's excited about the events that we do in this area. I think by all means, this is going to be, again, with your blessing, this is going to be a great opportunity for our community. Also, Travis has also been joining me on the grant meetings thus far. Thank goodness. It's a little hard to, it's moving very fast with the grant. So it's very nice to have somebody there to kind of help digest what they're saying, especially when I'm not used to the government sector. And so that's been very nice too as well. So we've had our reading of this. Do we do a motion? We can do a motion or discussion.
You can do a motion, and then you can have discussion.
Okay.
I make a motion
Two.
to appoint or to hire him.
To adopt the resolution.
Yeah, to adopt the resolution.
Okay, Councilmember Mays has properly made the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Campbell. All right, discussion, guys. Travis, comments for the group here?
I'm just excited to get past this 60-day window that I have and get started. It's not the first time that I've been interested in this position, so I'm excited about it. Looking forward to getting started and getting some changes made.
And I failed to mention, I think I mentioned this to a few of you, Travis does have a 60-day window that he has with Bethel that he has to provide. He has already, in the evenings, over the weekend, he was messaging me for things that he can start reading, helping with. So I think even through that 60 days, he'll probably be using his nights and weekends a little bit for Georgetown. So I think we'll see some value in that too as well.
I'd like to add something to that. I would like to say for the rest of the council that with the experience that he has from Bethel and with what I've seen, the changes in Bethel in the last 10, 15 years, it would be refreshing to have somebody like this as our administrator for our community.
Correct me if I'm wrong, when you came into Bethel, weren't they under fiscal?
Going into, yes.
Yeah, they were pretty much in an emergency state, and he was able to bring them back around to where they are today. Thankfully, we're not there, nor do we want to be there, but I think that's a very high regard for Travis.
So the 60 days is August the 12th, correct?
Can I speak to that too? I just wanted to add, the contract does read that, you're correct, that it reads August 12th. However, there's also a provision in there that in the event he's released from Bethel sooner than that, for whatever reason, that he can start sooner. And there's a provision that he's agreed, and I think it's very generous, that he's going to continue to start as he can with his time availability to work with us. And that's something that the mayor negotiated with him to put in the agreement so that we can get access to him as quickly as possible. This happens a lot in communities where there's a clause where it'll say, you have to give us so much notice. And a lot of times communities will waive those based, as long as the matters are wrapped up in their own community. And knowing Travis as I happen to know him, I'm sure that he would not leave anything there unfinished. And he's certainly going to start here as quickly as possible. And we'll start benefiting from his experience. So.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes.
Councilmember Mays?
Yes.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Yes.
Councilmember Garbett?
Yes.
Councilmember Barnhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bakke?
Yes.
Welcome aboard. Motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Resolution 1380.
Tara, do you have a printed copy of his agreement?
I do, if he's ready to sign it.
Yeah. Why don't we do that?
Travis, you gonna come up?
If you want to come up, get that signed, just so that we've got it as a formality, that way if you have to give notice or whatever.
Should we take a picture and?
Yeah.
Yes, I'll take
Yeah.
your picture.
We can do all of council with that. You want to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to do that? You want to do a quick photo?
You guys, you good for a photo?
For Facebook?
You said it earlier.
All right. Well,
All right, guys, let's grab a quick photo here.
you need this.
I'm in it. Oh, yeah, you guys are all in it.
Yes.
So,
I'm in the back.
look at me.
That's
Be casual photo.
We're in the store next
And then I shake out your own. And I'm like,
Knew I should have dressed up.
Should have permed my hair.
Yeah, I go all the way to Florida to get a call
All right.
grandbabies. So I'm trying to stay this way.
Travis, I think your first order of business is figuring out how we put another chair. Oh, wait, no.
I'll be happy to go out there and sit.
It's not officially started.
All right, what am I saying? Right here? Okay, 1 second, guys. Let me sign this before I forget. And Perfect, thank you. All right, so, goodness, guys. So topics B, C, and D kind of all run together, if you will. They all really kind of go into the larger discussion. However, it's a hard one. You guys want to start with pay scales? Kind of talk through that? All right, let's start with it. I think some of the questions you have will run into the other merit versus step and also insurance. But I know Kelly Jones sent out to you guys copies of the pay scales, right, Kelly? What else did you provide for them?
If I can, Mayor, I gave council a packet of current village employees' salaries, and I do want to clarify, that's going to be the first sheet. If you look to the far right-hand corner, there's new above, that's the step raise that they just got, or the merit raise that they just received. So there's no confusion on that. And then I've attached Bethel, New Richmond, Lancaster, and Mount Orb to do a comparison. And we asked them also to clarify on health insurance. There's a Ohio Municipal League. I sent a copy of that to you. I'll be honest. If you look at the Ohio Municipal League information, it's very confusing. It's almost too overwhelming trying to get a feel for what the state of Ohio is doing. There's so many variables in it. So what I did do is I took 10, 12 of different communities that are similar in size, population, and employees, and did a comparison on that to let council review. If you want to go to their website or look at the information I gave you, you can go in and click on a line item and it'll highlight all the way across. Again, there's a lot of variables in there. And then I also just attached general information, our insurance, our buyout. I know comp time came up in the discussion with council. I threw a lot at you to review, and honestly, it's probably going to take council a little bit of time to look at it and kind of do the comparison. So,
Yeah.
So if you guys recall, I mean, no secret, we've had some feedback discussion from the employees. We've had some employees at the meeting regarding the pay scale and, you know, comparing it to other villages and other jobs and roles that they could do. And the task that this council and previous council really was working through is the pay scale that we currently have. Is it accurate? Is it fair? Is it up to date? Do we need to do any type of, you know, incremental adjustments? You know, what does that look like? So you have the pay scale in front of you. I would entertain some discussion about what you guys are thinking. I mean, this really is, it's a big thing.
There's probably no way we can get spreadsheets that are similar instead of having to go here, there, and look all over, right? I mean, that's fine if we need to, but I was just curious, because like they're so different. You know what I mean? They're saying similar, but they are different.
it's a lot to digest. That's what I'm
Right,
saying.
right.
It's going to take council a little time to look
Right.
through everything.
Mike, when you say spreadsheet, are you looking for the municipal league?
Yeah, well, like
Or just in general, because we have the pay scales in Excel.
okay, yeah, because like,
Somewhere.
yeah, like he's gave different departments in different towns, wages and maximum, and it would just be easier if it was kind of together. You know what I mean?
So you're looking
I'm
at all the
asking a lot
data
for
at
Kelly.
once rather than
Truly,
different.
but-
Yes, I see what you're saying.
Like one line is Georgetown, one line is New Richmond, one line is Lancaster. That's what you're looking
And
for.
everything broke down to where I can look across this and I know what I'm looking at and scan it in a couple hours as opposed to having to go and just a lot to consume.
Yeah, that would be something you would have to, I think, input into spreadsheet.
Right.
It's there, I think.
Is it there?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's there. It's there. I was actually looking to see if I had, but I know I wouldn't have the most updated. What's the difference between the front page, Kelly, and the third page, the pay scale that's effective 2022?
That is a copy of the last pay scale that the village had. Since that time, they have gone to a merit-based. And
That's
this
right.
kind of showed the range.
That's right. So when we went to merit-based pay instead of step scale, we created a minimum and a maximum for each role. And so on page 3, you have the min and max there for each role.
Now, those numbers have changed because of merit raises you'll have to go back to the first sheet to see where they're at today.
Well, the min and max would not change.
Probably not.
No, because that's just saying for that role, here's the minimum that we would expect to pay a person in that role. Here's the maximum. So the third page is just kind of your guide. The first page is the actual salaries. And you said this is with the recent pay increase, right?
Yes.
And then the second page is the continuation.
Excuse me. The second page is the insurance monthly, and then the annual, and then it also shows the buyout in the far right-hand corner. We have employees that are taking the buyout.
Does anybody have any words of wisdom on how we tackle this, or do we tackle it, or is there an easy fix? I don't know.
Definitely gonna need some time to look over this. And where's the ones from the other villages? They're on down in here?
They're on back,
Because, I mean, that's what I want to see. I want to see where they're at. Obviously, you give us that sheet for that reason.
I put Greg was helping.
I don't see
Get
that.
some of this information, and you're going to see two Gilpins on there. One's Bethel and the other one's New Richmond. So that'll give you an idea.
And which packet's that in?
This one that says for FW Village information at the top, I believe that's New Richmond.
Oh, okay, I see it
So,
now.
see, yeah. And then,
Yeah, that's Joel's. That would be New Richmond.
Why you guys print it so small?
And then the resolution 2024, that would be Blanchester. Information with Donna Wallingford's name on it, that would be Mount Orb.
Hey, Wallingford is New Richmond? Mount Orb.
Joel Gilpin is New Richmond. Wallingford would be Mount Orbs. I think there's name or identifiers on each packet except Bethel.
Mike say he needs more time. I think I heard Amber say the same thing.
I think it's gonna take a while to get through all of this, and if we really want to make sure that we're looking at all aspects of, the towns around us, it's gonna take some time. There's a lot of information in here.
There's probably a lot more that we can put our fingertips
Uh-huh.
into.
I was gonna say, I can probably dig up some more.
Well, and if we just hired a administrator for that purpose, I think in fairness to him, giving him a chance to look into that and give his input and wisdom, because that is his, what we've got him here for. So I think being able to let him look at that as well and give us some guidance there would definitely be helpful.
All right.
Anything else that you guys want to see immediately before, without, in addition to the stuff, before moving on? So that-
If I could get just a few minutes, I was wanting to add something up real quick, and then I was gonna give you guys something else to think about.
Kelly, how many employees do we have with the village?
Pardon?
How many employees do we have?
Oh,
Forget the number.
you ask me all the time, I can't remember.
38?
32, not counting Kelly.
32, 33.
And that includes part-time or no?
No part-time.
30, 32, 33 employees, does not include part-time.
If you look at that third column down on the front page, that's just fire alarm.
Do all of these communities have the same title, so to speak?
Not necessarily.
So that can get a little bit tricky too. Who would I reach out to verify what this one is in relation to what Mount Orb calls their guy? You?
But they'll be close.
Okay.
Have your second page, you have your insurance information as well. If you look at that, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. So those are the employees that take advantage of our insurance, and the variance in what they pay per month is based on whether they take the different types of plans, single family. I think we have a employee plus spouse plan. So that's why there's a difference there if you do see that. And then I think we all know what the insurance buyout is, correct? The ones that don't take advantage of our insurance, they have it elsewhere. We pay them not to be on our insurance. So you'll see that $5,000, that's what we pay them not to be on our insurance. Which, as you can see, in comparison to the insurance annual cost to the village, it's,
Huge difference, ain't it?
yeah.
The very last sheet kind of goes with the insurance. It's the HRA portion of the insurance. Single coverage, they can be reimbursed for $2,000, and the others are up to $4,000. So they can turn in billing throughout the year and get up to those amounts.
As you guys are doing your homework, pay attention to, sorry, that's right. I apologize, guys. Sorry, pay attention to how comp time works. And there was something else. I guess it's just comp time, because we've had a lot of questions about comp time, how we bank that, how it's paid out, who earns it, who doesn't. So make sure you pay attention to that too as well. And the emergency call out too as well. We had our electric department talking about that at the last meeting, and kind of how maybe that could be modified to be a little bit better for them. So in comparison to the workload and the work that they do, not just specific for them, but just how we pay it in general for anybody. Ready,
Okay,
Kelly?
Yeah, so I was looking at the proposed budget for next year, and if you guys would write this number down, where you'd have a little bit of room to work, I'll kind of give you an idea. $4,087,781.95. Now,
Can you repeat that number one more time?
4,087,
Go ahead.
781.95. All right. So what I have done is I calculated, I took everybody's hourly. So I just wanted to kind of throw this out and kind of get some feedback if I was doing it correctly. So the village pays $814.28 an hour for employees.
Is that
That's the old one. There's not the new one.
That is and actually, you might be right.
'Cause I think you did that before we got
It
the
was.
3% increase.
Yes, it's $838.71 an hour. That's for a 40-hour work week. That is with 32 employees. That means no council, no mayor, no administrator. That is everybody that works here full-time. That's not part-time. If you take that figure of $838.71 an hour and you times that by 2,080 hours, that's $1,744,516.80. Now, again, keep in mind the budget's $4 million. So with this figure that I just saw with the insurance that we pay out, counting the buyout and everything, it totals $494,385.24. You combine that two, that's $2,238,902. That's 50% of the budget. That's salary. That's insurance and salaries, 50% of the budget. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind. That's a big number. And to hit on that,
I didn't want to interrupt you, but you also got to factor in the village's portion of the retirement, which is
yes.
14%, I think, if they're still what the OPERS
Right.
number is. So
yes,
You got
that's what I was hitting on next. So with that theory of what we pay hourly, every 1% merit, okay, so let's say we're going to stick with the merit, every 1%, if you took the highest paid employee and the lowest paid employee, average them all out, literally average everything out. The village at 1%, everybody gets 26-cent raise. So if you're talking quick math, you give that 3% raise. If everybody's even and does a good job, every 1% is 26 cents. So just wanted to throw that out when you guys are looking at all these numbers. Budget is all we have. So when you start looking at what all the different crews want and all that, we just have to tread lightly. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Kevin.
Mhm.
So I think I've heard from the group here that we want time to digest this, potentially work with our new administrator to talk through some ideas, maybe get this more in an electronic format so that it's a little bit easier to read, which we can certainly work on that, which I do believe we have. +2 with an Excel sheet, we can, with an Excel sheet, we can certainly get it like if this, then this type equations too as well. So quick math, I guess, if you will. Okay, is that the consensus pay scales versus job titles? Let's just digest this. Okay.
I will throw out another opinion on the next, how all this is running together.
Pay, that was, you go on the pay scales?
Merit, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so,
Or yes, sorry.
no, you're fine. I come from a step raise for 27 years, so I'm used to that. Merit, I was kind of against it right off the bat because I don't really understand it. Once I figured out what merit was, basically, if you have 4 people on your crew, you take those hourlies, you total them up, then you divide by 4. Then the foreman splits that equally. So I think merit is fine if it's done that way. My problem with merit is that if it's abused, and let's say that that foreman does not, he gives one employee more than the other several years in a row, those steps start fading out. If Mike's a operator, he should make more than somebody who's not an operator yet. But if the foreman doesn't like him and he gives the guy on the ground more every year, eventually they take those steps and just kind of ruin that. So I'm trying to get my head around all that. I think a lot of that can be simplified if the foreman's not getting the work out of them, then it might be the foreman who needs to say, hey, you have to do more work. We can't let you slide. You're not doing as much as that guy or this woman. So
I think it goes back to conversations, and to having something that in the merit world, having something that reflects the increase that you give to the person, which means it should be like some type of written evaluation once a year, at least at a minimum, so that you can justify what you're giving to that person versus just giving the increases. A few of our departments there's not a consistent method for evaluations. I learned that last year. A few departments have evaluations that they do once a year. That's something in the back of our head that we have to make sure that as we move forward, we really want, if we're going to stick with merit, we've got to make sure there's a consistent process with employee evaluations. It justifies the merit increase, again, if we stick with it. But it's also, you've got to show your appreciation to your employees and have those conversations. So to Kelly's point, if the foreman's not having those conversations and just giving increases based on what he sees, then of course that's going to cause animosity. So another backpedaling step with merit, if we so choose to keep it, is we need to do some education. We need to do some training around, the coaching process and what this looks like and how we expect you to handle it. To Kelly's point, yes, if we gave you a $1.75 for your department to use in raises for hourly employees, you can divide it up. If you want to keep everybody separately apart, you can divide it up by the number of employees and give everybody the exact same raise. It's really not the idea, right? It's pay for performance. But to those, I know we've heard commentary around, I want to give my employees all the same raise. Well, you really can. You really can if that's really what you want to hold within your department. You just need to justify it within evaluation. So that's one opinion. You got my opinion on that one too as well. Other opinions on merit versus step.
I emailed all the department heads and I just wanted their opinion. I said, just tell me what you think. And 5 out of the 6 of them preferred the step raise. And when they did that for some of the reasons that the mayor just indicated about the potential pitfalls of it. But they all, which I thought was commendable for them, all of them talked about clearly defining how do you get to the next step? How do you, if you're in pay scale 3, what training, education, experience do you have to do to be moved up to pay scale 4? And that's on the employee. If you're not willing to do that, you ride out number 3 and you ride it till the end. If you want to move up the ladder and you want other than a cost of living or what your step is, then that's what you need to do. So I think listening to those guys, or if we are going to do the merit, I think that education piece is going to be super crucial because I think there is some hesitancy in just the brief conversations I had about creating some animosity in there, but all of them didn't want to just say, well, I'll give this guy a step raise. It's if I'm going to move you up, you've taken training, you're doing extra work. There's things that you're doing in order to get moved up that scale. And it kind of lays it out very clearly for them and kind of takes that, I don't want to say favoritism, but kind of takes some of that out of play because it's real simple, picking on Mike. If Mike doesn't want to go to training and doesn't want to, learn extra things about his job and do stuff, he's going to stay at 3, where Kelly Campbell has gone to training, is asking for different things, doing stuff, is an operator, whatever, maybe moved up to a 4 or 5. So, you can look at it both ways, but I think in some ways it might, if we looked at doing step, it may, and we would just have to adjust the pay scales accordingly, but that takes that out of play, I think, to a certain degree. But again, that's just my opinion talking to some of those guys. And there was a department that preferred merit.
The other thing is it would almost, in some sense, then everybody would be a boss, so you can't have everybody being the chief, so there has to be some, there's got to be some workers and some bosses and this and that. I will give you a little background. I was talking with some people before. This was years past. So this is how this raise, cost of living stuff used to come into play. I guess it used to be have step raises every 6 months. And then most years they did a cost of living raise. And then when Jeremy, whoever Jeremy was? No, the administrator.
Jeremy, oh, yeah.
When Jeremy come in, they put a stop to it and made the raise once a year. It costs a living every once in a while. So with that being said, it's constantly changed. You know, there's nothing that's always set in place. So
There's not consistency over the years. I can attest to that. Is there a decision to be made here, or what are you guys saying? I mean,
Correct
yes.
me if I'm wrong, isn't there like typically, something in the workplace policy where about those things,
What do you mean?
when it raises and things of that nature? No?
Corporate America, yes. Government,
that's
it's
what-
all,
Gotcha.
it's all open book. Anybody can get anybody's income.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's government. Is anybody saying any one thing in particular? Because I don't know where to go with this.
I don't know where to go with this. I would like a little bit more time to read through and probably make my own layout, I guess, to look at it better.
So from my perspective, I think that if you're using merit, you could essentially use it like step if you want to. If that's the way you want to run it, and then that's your prerogative. That's your.
100%.
So I think merit would be. That's my opinion. I think that would be better.
Maybe merit defined with Andy's point, a little more definition behind job titles and how you get to the next step type thing. It's not a bad idea. It's probably my stance on it, honestly.
I'm definitely not against listening to the guys out in the field, but I'm definitely against going against the people that I'm here to serve too, as far as the cost. So there's got to be a balance, for lack of a better word.
and a deadline, you know.
Right,
That was
yep.
another issue that I personally, I know a lot of people that work here too, and some might get a raise in February and some might not get a raise until, I don't know exactly, but they were acting like they would come up and say, when do I get the raise? Because this person's already getting a raise or something. Like,
That way, because we set an effective date, as far as the race to go. I mean, unless that was years ago, I don't think it should be that way unless something different's going on. I don't think-
Extra education, how's that, is that possible to achieve as far as, to know the ins and outs of the step and the merit? I've heard a little bit about it, but I kind of feel like maybe I'm not grasping that.
What was the question, Mike? I did not hear it.
You mentioned, maybe some education, some class or something to bring us kind of.
Yeah, I think it's more of an internal thing. It's not really bringing somebody in to do again, my opinion, to do any type of training. I think it's more on leadership within the village. So our administrator probably combining with maybe a little help from me, bringing the department heads in and really kind of going through merit increases and talking about the conversations and, how we rate our employees and writing good reviews and what that might look like. And just making sure we're dripping on that to continuously help them have those conversations. Nobody in general wants to have these conversations. Honestly, even when they're positive conversations, leaders really, I don't really want to sit down with my employee and talk about this. I'll tell them good job and we'll move on. Well, honestly, that's really not enough. We need to sit down and talk about the good, the bad, and sometimes the things that maybe we think we can do a little better on. So that's what I'm saying, education. Do some activities with the department heads to really help them understand what we think they should be doing with their employees to help make them more comfortable. I mean, I'm obviously for merit, just because I think it pays for performance. But if it's merit or step, we just need to sit down and really help them understand it. If we were to go back to step, there's going to be conversations that need to happen there because there are going to be people, leaders that don't understand it. So either way, it's just about educating the department heads.
So when does this just need to be done by the next budget? Is that where it essentially boils down to?
It probably should be done. The problem that you have here is that you have employees that have shown some, concern about what they're being paid and kind of pushing a little bit around, maybe they should be paid more, maybe the scale is not right. There are other places out there that are paying way more. I think there's a lot of education there again, where we're sharing the real cost of what we're paying for employees, the insurance. I mean, my whole opinion is, you'll just get it because I'm just going to share it, is that, there's probably a little bit of wiggle room on the scale. Maybe we're a little bit behind maybe what we should be paying. Maybe we should look at maybe a 1% cost of living on the scale increase period at the end, maybe. But in general, I think we need to do a better job of educating, again, back to leadership, not us technically, but leadership, educating the employees about the real cost of their role. How much we pay for their insurance, the benefits, the fringe benefits that we give. If they go, and again, I appreciate all of our employees, 100%. But I'm going to tell you, if somebody leaves here to go to Claremont County to take a job, the same job that they're doing here, they're not going to be getting free health insurance. They're not going to be getting their HSA account. They're going to be putting miles and gas in their car, way more than they are coming to Georgetown. And again, it's those kinds of things. Obviously, we don't control the gas in the car and all that, but we do control the insurance. We do control all the extra benefits that we provide to our employees. And I think if we take that all into consideration, we're not too far behind those other places out there that are coming to the table and surfacing, and maybe these employees are looking at. It's not always all about the dollar that you're getting paid per hour. You got to look at some of the other benefits. So I just think as a whole, we need to answer your point being, we've sat on this subject for 2 years, honestly, not we, but we in general. I honestly think we just need to make a decision. Are we going to stick with merit? Are we going to go back to scale? Yes or no? Make that decision, make something on that. And then, with pay scales, I mean, we could, with Travis's help, we could probably talk through a few options there. I don't know, and I'll just say it, I don't think we're going to be aggressively changing anybody's pay. I don't see that. I don't hear that from any of you. So I don't know that, should we even tackle that right now and just wait as we get closer to the end of the year when our administrator comes on board and we're really working more diligently with him to allow him to guide us through these conversations? I mean, unless I'm hearing you guys wrong, I don't hear anybody at this table saying we've got to jump this pay scale up by $2 an hour or, any of that. I don't hear that. But if I'm missing that, just let me know. But then, I do think we need to make a decision today or next meeting on merit or step. It's, yes, we're going to go back to step. No, we're going to stick with merit. That I think we can easily kind of push out of the way. The insurance cost in general, when you see item D on there, that's kind of twofold. I mean, yeah, that falls into the pay scale conversation, right? Because insurance is a part of the benefit. But the insurance that you see there, the insurance cost is also coming up in October. That's where we evaluate our plan and decide, if we want to scale that back. That's probably something we probably should be spending a little more time on. But again, I think in conjunction with our administrator. I think as we move forward as a whole, a lot of these things that we're doing as a council will probably kind of be much faster. I envision when we bring Travis on, he's going to come to us with option A, B, and C for insurance. And we're not going to be diving into this so much ourselves. We're going to be more hands off. I think we've gotten more hands in the pot over the last 6 to 9 months, just simply because we're all working together as the administrator. And really, it's been 12 to 15 months, honestly, since the previous administrator. So Travis might agree, might disagree, but I truly think a lot of these things, if we just, other than merit versus step, if we just hold off, we're going to have much stronger guidance from our administrator, and it's going to be a little bit easier for us to digest and make some decisions. Yes.
Thing.
Yes.
So, I ran some numbers with, the police department and the electric department, their proposed increases. I took it from their 3% increase, what it is now, and then with the proposed rate. The police department would be an additional $97,676 a year. The electric department would be $27,560 a year. So for that to happen, we would have to either, I'm assuming, increase the utilities or the tax income or do a levy, and that would be terrible because I'm poor too.
Well, and I think, again, if I summarize this whole conversation and all of these bullet points, again, I think the big thing we all need to agree here is that as we bring the new administrator on, we got to learn to scale back a little bit and allow him to kind of guide us through some of these conversations. Even down to the levy, that's going to be a conversation that him and I are going to have in the future, the feasibility of a levy. If we do it, there might be better options, we need to really get stronger in grants too as well. So I think as a whole, I think these conversations and these deep dives that we're doing probably need to get minimized in a sense and allow us to be guided by our administrator as we move forward. And back to your original question, being as far as, timelines and whatnot, I honestly think we should make a decision tonight if we're going to stick with STEP or merit, take that off the plate and allow our administrator to get onboarded and really help us with the pay scale thing. And then he'll ultimately help us with the insurance renewal in October. That's my opinion. I don't have a vote in the game, but I do think that we've just gotten too involved as a council, and rightfully so. We've just not had an administrator, and we're thankful for Kelly.
I'm thankful for Travis.
I was ready to go back for retirement, right? Yeah. So what do you guys think?
So do we need to make a motion so we can discuss the motion, or?
Joe, guide us.
Right?
Well, my opinion, I'll throw my
Except for
opinion
merit.
out there
Let's
as
get that
well.
out of the way.
Yeah, you can do that.
Motion.
What's that?
I was trying to see how we could, which one are you speaking to?
Well, we don't really have to do anything if we're keeping merit in place, do we?
No,
The motion would have to be to change it back to step.
and that would take somebody making that motion to say, I want to go back to step increases.
Right. And I wouldn't make that motion because I feel my opinion is more towards the merit as well. So I wouldn't make that motion myself. So if someone wants to make that motion and then we have the discussion, I think that's what needs to happen. Otherwise, we just move forward with where we're at and see what happens after that.
Does anybody feel strongly about going back to step increases? If so, as a whole, that person can make a motion. If there is no motion to be made, we're going to stick with merit increases.
I do have a thought is once we get into the pay scale idea here and we have Travis on board and we're talking about those things, I don't think that we can adjust our pay scales wholesale like you said. I mean, that's gonna really just do some damage to our budget, and it's gonna be very hard. But I would say maybe we talk about this, seeing about maybe being a little more aggressive with those merit raises in the future for a time being to try to catch up, because we don't want any of our employees to think that we don't value them. But we can't go wholesale across the board and just really increase everything, or we're going to have to do something. That's another discussion for another day, but it's something that I think may be worth at least thinking about.
Okay, let me summarize this for everyone, just so we can all agree we're on the same page. So we're looking at items B, C, and D. So B, pay scales and job titles. I think if I'm hearing everyone correctly, we are gonna pause this for the moment. We are gonna allow our administrator to get acclimated, and then we will take some advice from him, allow him to review, digest, and then come back as a council. If he feels we should be looking at something, he'll probably make some proposals to us. Anybody feel differently? Okay. Item C, merit versus step raises. We're sticking with merit. We have made that decision. Well, we haven't, the decision was already made to be on merit. So no, there wasn't anyone that wanted to change that. So we are moving forward with merit, and we are, and maybe just more education with the department heads to help them understand it a little better. And then item D, insurance costs. That's the big picture of insurance, what we pay as a village for our insurance for our employees. We are allowing that to fall in our administrator's hands, as it should, for debate for the renewal process. Normal consideration from the administrator. He will then come back to us and talk to us about some of the changes, probably give us option A, option B, option C, the pros and the cons, and then we'll help him make the decision. We're accomplishing a lot tonight. A lot. All right, guys. Is that good? Okay. All right. Let's mark those off. All right, item E, special events policy. So as you guys know, we had a special events policy. It kind of was, it was missing some components in it. It was the previous council that came up with it. We then made a motion to suspend that policy a couple months back because it was not working as we thought it would work. And here we are with no special events policy. I don't know how you guys feel about that, or where you would like to go with this subject. So Travis, just a little bit, little verbiage around that. So basically last year, maybe the year before, council felt the need for a special events policy to use any of the village property. So for example, if it's not a village event and you want to have fireworks on the square or a concert on the square, how do we make sure that we're, our interest is covered and everything's legit and all boxes are checked? So we came up with this policy, and then, or the council came up with the policy, and then it really didn't seem to, it had some holes in it. And there are pretty big holes, I think. So we decided to suspend it, and now we're just relying on our administrator to give approval for events and check insurance. And I don't know if that's how Bethel does it. No. Yeah. So,
I think the policy that we had, if I'm not mistaken, may have been too comprehensive in the view of some. And so we kind of need to find that happy medium. That's, I think, is that a good summary of where we were? I think it was overbearing a little bit, and some of the members of council thought we could find an alternative. So I think the question is, how are we going to get to that happy middle ground? Is that a fair assessment?
Travis, would you mind to come to the mic and maybe just tell us a little bit about your experience with your community, previous community, what they do? Might be helpful for all of us.
Yeah, I think you definitely we need a policy. And it's a comprehensive policy, but there's not really much to it. Once it's completed, fire chief, police chief, public works signs off on it, and the administrator signs off on it. That way you know that, the big things, safety plans are in place, trash, all that kind of stuff's covered. If there's road closures, it's all, vetted through the police department, proper EMS coverage, that type of thing. So everybody signs off on it. Ours did not have a fee involved, so it wasn't a matter of income or revenue generation. It was just to make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted.
What were your requirements, if you recall, for insurance? Like, did a group have to have insurance? How did that work?
Yeah, they had to have a rider listing the village as secondary insured.
Okay. So basically that special events policy, or
Essentially the same thing. There was just, we had the fees and all of the other questionable things involved that we were like, we need to get that out because it doesn't make any sense.
the fees, there were fees that weren't spelled out. Kelly, there were,
Well, we ran into a few
oh, yes.
occasions where the veterans group was one where they didn't have the money to pay for insurance just to have their little parade, and it wasn't a lot of them. And but the current policy, they chose to really scale it down. So that was kind of a,
I think it kind of hindered a little bit. For example, the school typically, it didn't happen this year, but they typically did a drive-through graduation parade. The Legion did a parade for Memorial Day, I believe it was. And then we were finding that it was pushing these groups out. The fair, we were putting our heads together about the fair parade, how that would work. It just,
I'm wondering how, I mean, are we still talking about insurance cost? Is that where we're at?
No.
Because, oh, okay, I was gonna say, because insurance cost isn't that much.
no,
Okay.
no, just.
So we're just
looking
talking
at
about the whole policy in general with the
Yeah.
parades and
He
whatnot.
asked
Okay.
what,
I've never had anyone come to me concerned about the cost of the insurance.
Yeah, I know.
mean, those are pretty reasonable.
Pretty reasonable.
Yeah, so for example, like, I know, I don't know if it's a matter of not having the insurance. Like, for example, we didn't have the conversation with the school parade. Obviously, it didn't happen this year, but I guess I envision like something like that they've always done it and they've not.
I would think if the school was doing the parade, they have liability insurance.
So they would just be adding something on,
Yeah,
they
they
should be
would
just
be
adding
adding
something on
right
their
for that.
insurance.
And most of the time, villages and schools are used to doing that when they work in tandem anyway.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, I'm just using that as an example,
Yeah.
just so you guys know. Yeah, so that's where we are. We just don't have a policy. We suspended it. And if you want to have a yard sale and.
We can get you copies of what we had and where we're going to go.
So how do we, because I'm feeling like maybe we need to just go through and just change, cross things out and change out things that we, feel that we all need and that are necessary, but how do we go about doing that? Or do we write up a whole new resolution? How does that work?
Let's ask Travis.
Yeah, I mean, I need to take a look at what you have and let's see what the issues are and get
Okay.
them fixed.
We could allow Joe to work with
You want me
Travis.
to work with Travis to pare that down? I can give him what we had, and then maybe together we can come up with something that's not as onerous as it was, things we were seeing. You want to do that? And then you can kind
Is that good for everyone? All right.
and if you're okay with that, we'll also circulate that prior to giving it to you with the police chief and fire chief, maybe, just so we don't miss anything. So, okay.
All right, fantastic. Yes, we are at the last item on our agenda. However, this might be a long topic. Park, the fire. Plan. Bink, you were a part of the previous CDC committee, is that correct?
Yes.
And I know there's lots of discussion regarding our park, from a safety concern to, what we offer at the park to the equipment, the playground. Our playground is just behind the times. We all can agree with that. We don't have small kids equipment out there. What we have is old and outdated. We do have money sitting idle that needs to get spent that was earmarked for playground equipment. It's to the tune of $24,000. It came from a donation and Beer Fest donation from Lighthouse. Thank you. I apologize. So we have that. We have the basketball court did we ever make a decision on that, guys?
I know we did an approval on getting the slab
Yeah.
poured and tore out because that's supposed to happen first of next week, but we never did come full circle on the basketball rims themselves. So.
So we have that. So Travis, if you're taking notes over there, our park is a nice park, but it's time that we spend some time and money in there and figure out what we need to do. You sure can. I'm tired of
It
talking.
would be nice to figure that out tonight because, in that, I mean, it's not going to change a lot and it's still going to be under 20,000.
Hold on, we talking about the
The
rims,
slab, yeah.
the slabs and the rims?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it was discussed originally that they was going to be outside the slab, then it was told that it was going to be so far off the edge of the slab, so then I had no idea whether we were pouring a footer there for that. If it's under the concrete, we need to dig at and then pour it, and then it needs to be centered and so far off of the end. I was going to get with Kelly about that or Vink. But we need to figure that out because if they're pouring Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, we would definitely want to have that footer under there before it's poured.
This is going to be the fun part of having an administrator as we move forward. We're not going to have to be making these decisions.
And then also there was another discussion on, after the meeting, in regards to road mesh. And I got a lot of respect for the person that mentioned the road mesh, but I got a lot of respect for the concrete guy too. Concrete guy told me it was kind of futile to put that in. But again, the person that brought that to me, they have a lot of experience too. So, you know, that's something, you know, is it necessary? I don't know for a basketball court, but it was almost a $1,400 add-on.
So let's break this down just
So-
because, again, I am no expert in any way, shape, or form on anything that you're talking about other than I understand basketball. So we need to decide where the goals go.
Yes.
We need to decide something about a footer.
Yes, whether
And we
we,
need to
yeah,
decide the type of material on top of the concrete.
in the concrete.
In the
Whether we
concrete.
just go with the fiber mesh or whether we go with the road mesh.
Okay, so we need the material, I'm just breaking this down for everybody, Mike. Material in the concrete.
Yes.
We need to decide the rims.
Yes.
And we also need to decide a footer.
For the, whether it's going to be, well, and actually that would just be poured by the installer, I would think, if you did it outside of the slab. But if we do it inside the slab, then we need our guy to do that. That's going to pour that next week. So
I have that answer.
Okay,
You want me to handle this, Bink?
Yeah.
That company, they auger it in with a Bobcat. They auger a post hole, they do it.
okay, so you're
You're
going on
good.
the outside
Yeah,
of the
it
slab.
won't affect what he's
Okay.
doing at all. So
So
you're-
then we need to just determine basically, can somebody make a motion to approve going with the basketball rims that we had discussed in the past?
let's do this. For Travis's benefit and to make sure we're doing everything, like our next administrator is going to be on board with this. I'd like to make sure he has a good understanding. So Kelly or Mike, explain to Travis what we're doing here because you have the technical background. It will be finished.
I'll handle this and then I'll explain.
Practical consideration. I'm just pointing out, this may be finished by the time he gets here, just so you know, because he's, yeah, but just to bring him up to speed. so.
I'd say that it should be because.
I was gonna say, I don't think you wanted to wait till August, so
Yeah, yeah.
just be aware.
That's why I wanted to also get it moving with the basketball rim
Yeah.
because it's going to, I mean, he was going to tear it out this week, but then he was not going to pour it till next week. And I told him, don't do that because you've got kids out there at the park. Wait till next week, do it all in one shot. You're done.
Okay, so let's explain to Travis what we're doing here.
What has happened? Start with where we were and then take us to where we are now.
Bink, you want to hit on, there was 2 or 3 proposed goals and we chose that one. So that cost you're seeing was the basketball goals. They were Roughneck, I believe. Is that what they were called? That company was it Milford? They were close. So it was a company that could get those when we needed in a very timely manner. And then they come out, they bring a Bobcat out, auger a big hole and set those. And that's the goals we were, so as far as the idea was to get the court moving right away and then work with them and it won't be an issue. It'll be pretty smooth.
So our basketball court was just in disarray and has been for a few years. We decided that this is the year that we really wanted to get that up to speed and fix it. And And then Mike and Kelly worked on getting bids, and went back and forth on that.
And I don't have the copy with me, but it stayed under 20,000. And then when I contacted, Dave Taylor, of Sardinia Concrete, he did make the moves in his company to get them to discount it. And I've connected him with the contractor that's doing the concrete, which he knew him through that company. And so next week I'll know what that comes down. I don't know what it'll come down. I know it's going to be under 20,000 still regardless, but Sardinia Concrete was giving it to us for cost or less. So
Originally, Travis, we did have a grant that was awarded for the basketball court. I can't remember the amount, maybe 50,000.
Over 10,000.
Oh,
The grant was 10, the project was 50.
okay. Yeah, the grant was 10, the project was 50. They decided that they felt like that was too much money as a whole to spend on the basketball court, even though we had the grant. So then that's what sparked the interest in trying to get the extra bids to get the cost down. So we did away with the grant. We didn't go with the grant. We're just trying to get it done at a cheaper price. And so that's where we are. And then the two of them, I point to the two of them, they've been working on the particulars of it. So was that enough?
ultimately that we didn't pay $37,500, for example, for the slab, and then another $7,500 for the rim to push it up to the 50 grand. We got local bids, got the price down to, I think it's going to come in around 16.5 if we abandon the road mesh. And then by the time you put that on top of there, we're in the low 20s.
Back, Travis, initially, I don't want to put you on the spot.
Well, are they cutting the expansion joints?
Oh, yes,
So I don't know
absolutely.
what the difference would be.
4-inch thick.
It's gonna crack. either
Right,
way,
right.
So I'm not sure.
And I was advised by the guy, again, not going against, and I'm just going to say, because everybody knows Kelly's involved in this, me and have discussed this a couple times. We had different opinions on the road mesh. At least that's what I gathered from our conversation. He felt that it was necessary. I just felt like it, to be in road mesh, we're just playing basketball on it. So if we want to increase the price by $1,400, we can do that. If we don't, then, but again, it's called road mesh for a reason. We're not driving trucks on it. We're not driving cars on it. They're
What's
running
the
around.
purpose of the road mesh?
The road mesh is,
Help all the-
not to be rude, but it has nothing to do with the road. It's to keep, when Ohio freezes and thaws, the ground moves so much, if that concrete is broke all the way through at the saw joint, it will raise and separate to where you could literally run and trip over it if it does not come down equally. So the mesh, if it's put in right, you have to pull mesh up. A lot of people stomp it down and it's in the mud, so it does not do its job. Mesh has to be pulled up. So if mesh is put in correctly, that concrete will crack, but it will not move. So that's,
So the slab is a whole.
the slab as a whole will not separate in, so concrete should be sawed in a 10 by 10 or no bigger than a 12 foot. It has to have a saw release joint. So that's the whole reason. It is to keep it from moving. Now, they do make a hair product that they put in the mix. But like you said, it's going to crack, period. But the mesh would keep it over time from literally raising and tripping if it's done correctly. But I agree with Mike and I agree with the guy doing it. Mesh is a pain to work with, but it does have some value.
There's also the cost in 25 years, say, and that's about as long as the last one's lasted, that we have to tear that out. And it's more cost in the future to tear that out as opposed to nothing's forever. But I'm for either way, as long as council is happy with it, I'm happy with it. We can do the road mesh or we can do no road mesh.
What do you guys think? So let's start there.
You definitely don't saw cut the concrete completely in half. You're only cutting it so deep. And yeah, and then when it cracks, it's on down the rest of the way. It's not like it's a gap that cracks. It's got, I see what he's saying. There's benefit in it if it happens, but I feel like if it's built up right, there's a good base. I don't know that there's it's, a lot of times that happens in low-lying areas where there's a lot of water setting around that. Now, I don't recall how bad that is, low-lying area neither, so.
We need the first, I got it right here. Good
The
question, Dave.
basketball rims, the mesh.
First one is the material and the concrete. Do you guys want mesh for $1,400 more? Kelly says there's value, Mike says there's value, but there's also, we could save the money. So,
Well, here's where I'm at with it. The basketball court is designed to run on, and you don't need to be tripping on it. So if it does separate, which it will, and if it does not go back down equally, it will raise in spots. So my opinion is you need to have mesh in it.
additional $1,400 cost. Is anybody opposed to having mesh in it? At $1,400 additional expense? Speak up if you do.
We saved a lot of money on the project, so it's worth it if, you know, if it is worth it to a degree too.
Look at your big picture, how much
Right.
down.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so can I make a motion that we,
we don't need it.
okay, let's move on.
No, we don't even need the vote, like,
Well, then let's do it.
yeah,
Okay.
mesh it is. All right, solves that problem. All right, let's talk about this footer thing. Do we need a footer?
No, he said they're putting them on the outside and the company.
Only other thing we need, oh, I'm sorry, I do apologize.
You're all right. Only thing, you're right. You go ahead. You're going right where I was saying.
Only other thing is we need to decide on the rims and the poles or that whole particular of what we put in there. And what was the question on that? What was,
Well, we addressed that through what they had said, Travis, earlier. When we purchase the basketball rims and the stances, that comes with the service of install, right? So they come in and they dig that or drill it out, from what I understood, and then they'll pour, I guess, footing for it and then bolt it in. So really, that'll be took care of through the vote of where we go with what rim.
do we have, I thought we had the recreations outlet, do we?
Yes.
And we have that,
We just didn't vote on it and approve it, right?
we don't have to approve it, right? We don't have to approve that, we approve the basketball court itself. So,
So, it's just Brink can, or whoever can just contact,
Yeah.
Get that moving.
and he'll just give them a timeline of
Next week.
when it's going to be poured, and then we just set it up.
The following week.
fantastic. Gonna have a new basketball court.
That's great.
Nice job, guys. That was good.
Are they going to paint in terms of any kind of lines or anything like that? Or is that, will we have to get somebody that, something extra? Which I figured that was the case, but that was the only other thing I was sitting here thinking, which,
Concrete, it takes 28 days to cure.
right, it's not anything you gotta do right now anyway.
By that time, Travis should be kind of floating around here quite a bit, so we'll allow him to help us figure that one out. Does that sound good? All right. Okay, guys, let's go back to the 5-year park plan. So we just fixed the basketball court. But in general, I think maybe to start this conversation, and Bink, you might have some other conversations that you've had in the committee in the past. But honestly, I mean, what are we looking to see in the park? I mean, obviously, we need better playground equipment, whether that's through grants, through donations, through however we do it. We definitely need a stronger kid area, a much improved. I don't think that's probably been changed in 20 years, if not longer. No, you're fine.
I would love to see an event space in the park. I think that would be cool, somewhere to have like concerts in the park, because we have such a really cool space there that could be used like they do in Mount Orab. Something outside of the courthouse would be wonderful. So I've been talking to a group of people about that, and we've been throwing around ideas. Maybe I can get them to come into the next meeting.
Okay. Have we ever had a consulting firm come in and map out our park? Anybody know? And was that in any discussion?
I know I've talked to some members of the community and they had some previous plans that were mentioned, but I don't know what they are. So.
We entertain the idea of maybe looking at getting a few loggers to look at that and maybe look at. I think that there's money to generate from that for sure. And it would help with the park. It could all go toward the park. And when you take some of them bigger trees out, then you're going to open it up to let the other ones grow on up and produce something.
Travis, I mean, we could essentially go to a firm and have them, I mean, sure, it's a cost, but
Yeah, I would say I have a couple names if you need them.
I wonder what type of cost we would,
That's something we've never done, but yeah. I mean, if you want to make a drastic change, you would want to have a master plan before you start.
and maybe just input with ideas of what we're looking for.
There's someone who's spectacular who just did this for the city of Loveland. She's local. She lives in Loveland, which is closer than a lot of places that do these. But I have to say that the ideas they came up with were phenomenal. And there were things that you could implement in stages, meaning you might do this year, this another year, and it wasn't like one was contingent on the other. And so they're going to slowly implement theirs in that particular community over the next 10 years. So I think it is something worth having people bid on. And then you could decide if you want to, incur that expense.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
You been to our park anytime soon or recently? Yeah, there's a lot of potential. We have probably Kelly, how many acres that are unimproved on that backside?
The wooded side,
Mhm.
20 some.
Yeah, we have like 20 some. It's all very flat. There's a lot of trees, a lot of older trees. But we have probably 5 soccer fields, 3 or 4 baseball fields back there, the basketball court. We have the splash pad.
Does the volleyball court get used?
Not as much lately, no. Used to a lot, but
Maybe a pickleball court. I use it
Yeah.
with my kids, but not
But-
very often.
Well, Binka talked about at one point in time, maybe offering, like trying to energize the volleyball segment out there and getting teams to come here if we could improve that court or add courts.
One of the
to
things
get
I
people
hear
coming
from
in.
a lot, I mean, it interrupts you, Kelly,
No, you're
on the
fine.
fields is the coaches, when they have a ball game, there's not a mechanism. They're having to take their own either four-wheeler, side by side, sometimes even their own vehicle drag fields. And that's one of the things that a lot of them have talked to me about, what can we do to try to improve that, which I'm not saying that we need to work somehow with them, even if we had a park board or something to that effect. So we can improve the fields out there a little bit for the kids, because a lot of times people are having to drive their own stuff out there. I mean, and not that they're trying to intentionally tear something up, but it'd be nice if we had a mechanism internally in the park to take care of some of those things and just make sure that some of that stuff is at least available to the coaches and things like that.
We have one of the not temporary structures, the little sheds. We have one of those. We might have 2 now. I know they just put maybe they took the old one out and put a new one in. But that was Georgetown Youth Sports Association. Sean, they paid for that and put that on there. But we have no like storage facility or anything where we could potentially keep equipment or keep anything under lock. There's nothing like that out there. We do have the walking path, which is in bad shape. So it's a blacktop walking path, but it definitely needs improvement. We did have a grant on that, or we applied for a grant, but I don't think we got
There is
it.
small storage behind the shelter. What is that? Where the concession stands are. There's small
Oh, yeah,
storage
there's
there, but it's not very big.
There are restrooms and water fountains. Trying to think if I'm missing anything really. The parking's an issue. I know parking's an issue for the weekends for soccer and pretty much any of the sports.
Maybe look into sometime in the future widening that master path.
There's
Right now you have to pull over and let somebody pass you.
There's 2 entrances to the park, one by the restaurants, and then one on the backside. You have to convolute it, go through some of the back streets to get there. You wouldn't know it's there if you didn't know. But it's a very narrow path.
Do we know who did the mural at the skate park? I was thinking about getting with them and trying to see if we could work on getting that, looking better again.
Mural.
The mural at the skate park on the ground. I know a group of people came in and did a big Georgetown mural on this. Oh, you haven't seen it? It's really neat. But there's a lot of graffiti on it and it's getting old and like dingy looking. So I was gonna see if maybe they wanted to help brighten that back up.
Do a
If
lot
we
of
could
people
figure out who did it.
still use the skate
Oh,
park?
yeah, yeah. We use it like 4 times a week.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about putting an RFP out to see if we can get any reasonable requests for somebody to come in and give us some ideas? And then we can share our ideas too. I mean, I'm assuming if they're gonna make a plan for us and we want to go with them, they're gonna want our input, what we would like to see.
Joe, do these guys just do the planning and that's it, or are they kind of a structure point and that they'll tell you where you can get money at? Is it just straight planning?
They will actually assist you with some ideas for funding.
Yeah.
I know I'm very familiar with a lot of them because in the city of Loveland, we have Dave Kennedy who writes a grant a week. So I've gotten kind of accustomed to where they get those, but I know Travis is familiar with many of those. There's NatureWorks grants, you're familiar with all of them, but if you have a plan like this, they really like the idea of you being able to say, here's where we're going. It's not that you're just giving us money and we don't know where we're going. So I would venture to say that establishing a plan like this, I know we talked about this recently in another context, this plan will actually help you to attract grant money because it shows them what you're trying to accomplish. But if you don't want to do it and it's too expensive, you don't do it.
I feel like it's kind of like, it's like setting up a professional setting up a business plan for you, and then you're going over and you're working together and I think that would be the best way to do it because they're going to understand more, the workings of parks and things that you can do with the space.
And we're just kind of throwing things out there to
It's going to definitely start with, you have to make the space so trees have to come out. Because depending on what year it is, there's not enough soccer fields. Depending on what year it is, who signs up, there's not enough baseball fields. So you can't start downsizing what's there. We have to make it bigger. So
Could we all, at least in the interim, I mean, could we all agree that maybe something maybe Travis could start with is getting somebody in there just from a safety standpoint and looking at the trees, assessing the trees that we
I
have?
was gonna cover that tonight.
Okay.
Just to
Okay.
give you a heads up what the village is looking at here when you get
Okay.
finished.
Yeah, because I think that's important. It hasn't been done for a couple of years, and last thing we want is a tree falling out there. So, okay. Do you want to just talk about that now?
Yeah, I will, if you don't
Okay.
mind. If council members have been out to the park lately, especially the backside of the park has a lot of trees down. And we recently, and I'll pass this around, this showed up on Facebook a week or so ago, and the mayor brought it to my attention. And we went out and took a quick look at this tree. It's a very large oak tree. It's split probably 12, 15 foot from the ground up. We have a tree trimming company that's helped the village for, I don't know, the last 2 or 3 years, clearing out electric lines. They were able to come out immediately. They took a look at it. Their feeling on it, it twisted when we had a heavy wind, and that's what caused it to split. Tom, my street supervisor, and I went out and took a look at it, and we both came to the conclusion we wouldn't put anybody in that tree. This is such a large tree, there's only 2 ways of getting it down. And one is by crane, which I have an estimate on that. And then the other would be removing the fence and trying to drop it without it splitting further apart and coming back on whoever's cutting it down, which is going to be a dangerous undertaking. Now, with that said, I had the electric crew go out. We ratchet strapped it in 4 or 5 places to keep it from hopefully splitting further. They also roped it off back to another larger tree to kind of hold it in place until we decided what we want to do. The tree trimming company, and ironically, while they were there, they saw 2 more trees that should come down because they were considering they were going to fall on the pavilion. They were that big of a risk. But they gave me a quote of taking the one tree down at $8,495. That's with the crane. Big question is this crane, I believe, is be around a 40-ton. And they have to get, this is on the backside of the park. The only way to get it there would be to take it across all of our fields. They said no matter how dry it is, they still felt there was going to be damage. We have another entrance on the back parking lot. They asked us if we could remove the barriers along the walking trail. They might be able to straddle that and get to the back side of the park that way, but there's obviously going to be damage with that big of a piece of equipment. Now, I did have another gentleman reach out, and he gave me a quote of $4,000 to drop it. That's move the fence, drop it, and remove it. But during our discussion, I told him I wouldn't put anybody in that tree. And he ironically said the first thing he would do would ratchet strap it so it wouldn't split. So it's really something I think council, the first gentleman looked at it, said he didn't feel it was an immediate risk, but it needed to come down. So if you want to look at that and make a decision later on. The other two trees that he talked about should come down. He priced one at $17.95, and just taking a top out of one was $2.25. That he said both of those were in danger of falling on the Lions Pavilion out front. So
And this company has insurance too that you're talking about, or is that?
both of them are insured. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
The guy that
But the-
you did your 4,000 is that removal, or is that just he's dropping it and then it's up to us to get it?
No, he's gonna drop it, remove it.
So he'd take everything.
Repair any damage. I was also approached today, ironically, about getting some dirt for the diamonds. And it's kind of an odd time of the year, so I questioned what they were putting dirt in on, when they're still playing ball. But they were just wanting to get it in, stockpile it. When the playtime was over, they would get it out on the fields. I have the one ball field shut down. I shut it down immediately. We roped it off, and we had to move those teams to other playgrounds just for general safety. So we definitely want to get that down before we go in and drop a tree and a bunch of branches and mix it in with new dirt. And that was today, the dirt estimate was around $2,500. So the money we're saving on one project, here you go, you're spending it already on other issues, so.
Go ahead.
Can't the dirt wait for the field? I mean, another week and we get that tree out of there
I asked for more estimates
for the dirt?
and prolong that until we got a few other things finished,
Okay.
and they've agreed to do that.
Have you worked?
I have not,
I know who it is.
they reached out to the mayor. and
It's a township trustee for another township.
And he does carry insurance.
Agreement with the village that he would provide everything to us.
I don't know about the rest of council, but I like the price and I like the not.
I would just ask him to kind of do a survey, and if there's a couple other trees, if you decide to go with the other company, have them go ahead and take those trees down too.
Have them take a look at the
Yeah.
second ones.
Is that something we can go ahead and vote on, or is that something you can do out of your?
I can do it. I just wanted to
Right.
bring it to council's attention. It needs to be addressed fairly soon. I wouldn't wait very long on it.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
mean, are there any objections here? I mean, my thought process is get it done.
Yeah, the sooner the better for
Yeah.
safety.
Do we need to make a motion or?
No,
It's in this
it's
kind of-
in a spending limit. All right. Okay, so back to the park. Are we all in consensus where Joe will get us some recommendations maybe for a couple, or we'll put
Do an
the,
RFP, I'll help you get that together.
Joe will help us get that together so that we can get the proposals for the park.
And we had talked about putting together a committee of residents to give us some ideas. And I've had a couple of residents who've come up to me and give vehicle access is unrestricted. The automatic traffic gates are inoperable. Fencing by the skate park is damaged. The park slides are damaged. And one of them, that children's slide, the whole thing is missing. So one of the kids climbs up there and wants to slide down. It's just gone.
The slide part is
Yeah, the
completely
slide
missing.
part it's in that
been missing.
little like wooden one off to the corner.
I know our workers went out and repaired the one slide, but there's another one missing.
It's the small toddler slide. It's completely missing. There's an insert that slides in and out. Someone took the entire insert, and I assume it's just missing because it's been gone for about 6 months.
Is that little wood structure?
Yeah.
It looks wood, but it's like a hard plastic.
And a few other things that were mentioned, but are we opposed to the idea of having a committee put together for that would give us some feedback?
Well, what we could do is if we got an RFP out, then we could start narrowing down if there's one that's suitable to us. And then we could do some public input sessions, just like what we're doing with the grant. And then get input on things that public would like to see. And then ultimately, because any company that we go with is going to want to meet with us to talk about what we see for the park. And so they can incorporate our ideas. So we could just use that to our advantage and do a public input session, if that would work. Okay. So let's do that sooner than later, because I'm kind of embarrassed about all the things that we've just talked about with our park at the moment, and we need to step it up.
Not that.
We're going to keep Kelly on board to manage the park project and get that rolling. Sorry, Kelly.
It needs brush cut really bad.
I think the guy that does the tree can do that too. And
Probably can, but it's been so wet this spring that.
I would just say if this team is on board with it, anything that you need done that's an immediate improvement, that's not like buying equipment, and if it needs bush hogged, if it needs trees taken out, and I mean, spend it and get that part done so that we don't have hazards and the poison ivy, and I need to get out there soon. Definitely.
A lot of cleanup needed.
Spiders. Brooklyn said there's spiders out there too.
Same for you if you go out there.
All right, are we in agreement for the 5-year park plan? Let's get some, how fast can we get those in? Probably takes a little bit, right? Like if we put an RFP out?
We can make them as long as you want. I mean, we can do a couple weeks or whatever. Normally 14 days. I mean, whatever you want to do.
So like realistically, could we have some potential candidates? I mean, not a plan, but potential candidates and costs back by the next, that would be roughly a month from now, the next work
I
session,
would say that's probably realistic.
park plan.
Yeah. This is only the bid for what it will
RFP.
cost to do it. It's not the plan
Right,
itself. So,
right.
I mean, I would think so.
Okay. Let's try and get that out there and get that where we could have it line up with our next work session. Okay. All right. We literally covered everything on our general business tonight. Congratulations, guys. All right, so let's move along. Items from the staff in your packet. You do have a copy of Greg's payment listing. If there are any questions, we will fumble through those questions and try and answer them. If not, we will certainly go back to Greg. Any questions on the payment listing, guys? If not, let's go into our roundtable, and I'm going to start to my left with Mr. Bakke. Anything for council?
Just, there is a community event, I think, It's been mentioned in here before at the Eagles. It's a free event for kids. They're having bounce houses and different things this Saturday. I believe it starts early afternoon. Community's welcome on that. So if you plan on attending, and that's all I have.
Councilmember Fletcher?
So I would like to mention the farmers market that we're doing now every Saturday around the courthouse. It is 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Anyone who is interested in becoming a vendor can contact me via Facebook, or my email is on the website. And that's it. That's all I got.
Councilmember Garvin?
Meeting now, so we'll have to postpone that and start in July.
All right. Councilmember Campbell?
The grant planning on the 18th and the special council meeting on the 20th, I will be out of town. Both of those. So,
Well, I can tell you the planning or the grant meeting, it's input. That's all it is. I can catch up with you. You can come to the second meeting and still share your input, and I can share with you what
Yeah.
we get. But the zoning meeting,
yeah, I'm in South Carolina. I won't be there.
I mean, if you want a digital link, you can always get a digital link and still add comments. I don't believe that you can.
not necessary, but if you do want to, at least be able to comment, we can put you on the screen. If that's something you want, let me know and I'll find somebody to get that set up for you.
That's all I have.
Councilmember Barnhart?
I also am going out of town tomorrow, and I'll be out of town for a week.
A little rough. We have a zoning change request, and this is the hearing for council to decide from is it the Appeals Commission?
Yeah. We can do it.
Mm-hmm.
We can do it, but that member will have to be unanimous. Yep.
The meeting.
Well, the only other option we can give I always, in my communities, if I know there's going to be a number of people absent, I typically notify the applicant and ask if they would like a continuance to a new date. The only reason that might not work, and I have to check, Tara, do you know what the time, is there a specific timeline by which council must act in our code?
Yes, because Mike sat down with me and spelled out the meetings to make sure I was going to be in
Yeah.
town.
Do you know
Sorry.
what that timeline is?
I want to say 30 days?
I was thinking it was like,
And we're probably right on the edge of that, aren't we?
Correct.
Well, so the way to get around that is if the meeting opens and it's continued in progress, it can be bumped. So there's always a way around it. So in other words, we would still have to convene, and if council would rather have a full council there for that, what you do is if the applicant makes, or if someone on the board says, I would like to close this meeting and continue it in progress, you can continue it past that date because the hearing will have taken place. So I can talk to you about that, but that's an option if you want to do that. If you'd rather hear it with the 4 members, you can do that as well. Would you rather have a full council there? Okay, so I'll work with the mayor. We'll still need to plan to attend on that date, but I'll work with the mayor and the administrator to guide them on how to do that properly. I'll double check our code.
is there any, given that we're speaking about this in a public session, obviously, should we, out of courtesy?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, we will.
The other side.
Yeah,
make
but
sure-
I don't want to tell you we're definitely doing something until I've read the code because I want to
Okay.
make sure. But yes, that is normally what we can do. And again, I think we should work with the applicant on that.
And then we would have a new timeline to get that set up again,
Yeah.
probably. And then we can make sure
We just can't, we just have to continue it in progress. So I'll
Okay.
double check.
Is this out here across from IGA you're talking? Right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So was there anywhere that you got on restrictions for any of that we talked about? Possible restrictions, rather?
Deed restrictions.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about
Deed
that.
restrictions. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you for that update. More to come on that meeting next week. But the Tuesday meeting, again, you can watch it on YouTube that night if you want, and then we'll catch up with your comments the following week.
There'll be two more, so.
Yeah, 2 more, so it'll be fine. Councilmember Mays, anything for the group?
Just one quick thing. There will be hopefully, if council approves it, we're shooting for August. Don't have the dates on me right now, but next meeting I will put it out again. Skate around the square. August.
Are you gonna do
The month
another
of
ice
August.
skating?
No, it'll be roller skate
No.
around the square for summer. Yes,
And
yes.
ice skating in the winter?
Yeah.
Probably
yeah,
good to start getting that date firmed up
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
All
That's
right,
it.
all right. Chief
Congratulations.
Enlow, anything for the team here?
Two quick things. First one, is I usually don't come to the work sessions, so I thought that it was at 7, so I'm sorry I'm late. The only reason I wanted to come is I wanted to meet the administrator and see his appointment, so I'll have to rewind that and watch the video. I've been watching it live from the camera in there since 6:30. Other than that, sorry about that. Second thing is, when I came back in January, me and the mayor got together and wanted to do a small appreciation to the officers that work for us. And one of the things I come up with is we wanted to get some custom badges just to kind of tie our department to the roots of the village and Grant and the courthouse. So I brought that badge with me for you guys to check out.
Really cool, guys. Take a look at it.
Yes, they came out better than I could ever imagine. If you'd like to take that and pass it down, I'll come down here and take it to these guys. Other than that, that's all I got.
Designed this badge, worked with the company, put the as you see, you'll see we had some discussion. It's Grant on the badge and then the courthouse. And it's just very different from what,
Oh, that's really cool.
yeah, I think it's
It's not
very-
just a cookie cutter badge. It gives
No.
them something to be proud of.
it's really
to,
cool.
be part of the village. And they are proud of it. They really love the new badges.
So it took a few months for them to come in, but I think they turned out really cool. And I think it goes back, it's an appreciation, right? You're proud of the badge that you have on, and this makes it even more special. Take a look at that, Stan. You might really appreciate that. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, good.
I think he did a really good job with it. So we appreciate that. I was pretty wowed when he came to me with the design. So hard to say no on something like that. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And the price of the badge, ironically, are the same prices as cookie cutter badges, which doesn't.
Yeah.
We get you one.
Definitely. I know you told that. Interesting. Well, Sean, great job. And I want to say thank you for all that you've been doing. I think this council has noticed all of the following on social media, the good things that our department is doing. Not that they weren't doing it before, but man, Sean is really taking the opportunity to highlight his department and show what we're doing. I think I saw some lemonade stands that your officers were stopping by, and I also think I saw Sean mowing grass at some point on Facebook. So it doesn't go unnoticed, and you're doing a great job. So thank you for what you're doing with this team. And it's nice to have a strong police team and everybody working together. And I love seeing it. So great job. Thank you. All right. Our administrator, Kelly, do you have anything for us?
Not a whole lot. I did meet with John Kerry from the governor's
Yes.
office on Appalachia on the downtown project. We took a tour of the downtown and discussed the project. He said the governor is watching this closely. I didn't ask how closely, but he is watching the project. He has a big interest in not only Georgetown, but Grant itself. So that kind of piqued his interest. We were discussing various things as we went through town, including the fire that occurred here in the late 90s. And I don't think Mr. Carey got out of town until Joey had downtown filled with fire trucks because of the fire in the middle of town. So fortunately, that worked out in everybody's favor. But a lot of positive feedback from Mr. Carey. So
It's exciting.
that's all I have.
And thank you for fulfilling that tour and taking care of that day and walking through the project. We certainly appreciate that. And Kelly, I know we made strides tonight to bring in a new administrator, but it doesn't go unnoticed what you've done for this community. We certainly appreciate you.
It's been fun.
You know you're going to miss us.
Not real fun, but
You're gonna miss every moment.
You're going to miss this. You know it.
I will.
All right. Anything else for the good of the group tonight? All right, guys. Record time. We're at the adjournment line. I will entertain a motion. Councilmember Bakke has properly made the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Campbell. Tara, roll call.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Fletcher? Yes. Councilmember Garbett?
Yes.
Councilmember Mays?
Yes.
Councilmember Barnhart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bakke?
Yes.
Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned, guys. Thank you.
We're still live, though. We're still live.
It has sentimental value.
You could, you know. I mean,